Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Comms Business Live, where we'll be exploring how resellers and other channel companies can leverage the power of Microsoft Teams. I'm Charlotte, editor of Comms Business, and today I'm joined by Akshay John, Principal Customer Solutions Architecture at Dstny, and Patrick Drage, Global Channel Director, also at Dstny. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks, Charlotte.
So for anyone watching who's unfamiliar with Dstny, a good place for us to start is probably just to kind of have a quick overview of Dstny and your place in the market. So who wants to start with that?
I'll probably start there, as I'm probably well placed to do that, being at Dstny just under a year now, so I've had to kind of learn that off my own back anyway. So Dstny are a global provider of cloud-based business communications with nearly 4 million seats that we power. We offer tools that simplify communications for business partners and service providers. We cover various different areas of the business in terms of voice, video, mobility, which includes fixed mobile convergence, and then those all important integrations now, which leads us to today around Microsoft Teams. Everything we do is designed to be mobile first and customizable, so that, and again, that all important piece of actually how do we actually integrate easily into Microsoft Teams.
And one more fun fact, I think we are hidden away quite well because we take great pride in being fully brandable with every one of our solutions. So it's very likely a lot of the people are using Dstny products without even realizing that we're sitting in the back end. We take great pride in that.
Absolutely. And as kind of we've touched on there, the global cloud communication market has gone through a lot of change the past couple of years. So how kind of is it changing, and kind of what are you seeing from kind of that broader perspective?
Well, Akshay, I'll let you take this one first.
Surely. So I think one factor that comes into play quite a lot now is post-pandemic. And I know we speak about that as a reference point to a lot of changes in the communications industry. People are very much mobility-led in terms of working. So whether that's working off a mobile phone most of the time, or in different places, or making sure that they're able to move and take their work with them as they're moving from place to place. That's kind of become the norm now, and it never used to be the case before. There were some traditional organizations always having a desk phone, and working from there. That brings in certain challenges, as we discovered pretty quickly, things like compliance-led industries. Things like audit logs that are needed, things like having the quality assurance, things like reachability, and that's, I think, one factor that's really played in a big way in shaping how communications works today, especially for business workers.
Definitely. And is there anything you might kind of add to that, Pat, or is that kind of covering the most things you're seeing?
Actually, addressed a lot of what's important there. I think at the moment there's a lot of choice for people out there at the moment, actually. And coming from that, there is no right path for any one person, right? You need to be very, very open in terms of what you're able to offer. And that really falls into Akshay's point that you mentioned earlier around that kind of brandability point of view, which we will touch on more later. But the reality is we have partners that go in very much leading from a call to Teams point of view, which is our Teams integration. And we have other people that have their own brand that they really want to leverage. They have no idea that it's actually Dstny in the background that's actually powering it. And that's absolutely fine as well. So we give the ability for both paths on that side, which I think is why we're seen to be quite attractive at the moment.
And talking of Teams, or kind of Microsoft, as kind of you've kind of mentioned there, that's obviously growing in importance the past kind of couple of years. What's kind of your perspective on where Microsoft fits into this communications world, and kind of what value can be created by working kind of with Microsoft?
I think there's a couple of things. So there's going back a number of years when I used to work at Mitel, it was seen as a huge threat in terms of we need to compete with Microsoft on that front. Whereas I think now there's a lot more kind of understanding that you don't have to beat them, you can actually work with them and actually even leverage them moving forward, right? So I think there are a threat if you have no Teams integration strategy. Okay, on that side. But if you're actually already working with a lot of these PBX vendors and a lot of these cloud UCaaS players, there's an opportunity to go in and leverage that investment that's already there and still be able to deliver a Microsoft Teams strategy with their end customers. And I think on that side, that then gives them the ability to retain what they have until that end customer is actually ready to move to whatever that future might look for them, whether it's a fully managed UCaaS solution, whether it's actually a truly native Teams experience UC solution as well. Actually, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
I think, Pat, you covered quite a few of the important key points. Microsoft themselves have done a really good job at enabling communications, even without realizing they had the ability to. I mean, they brought out some good tools for working in an office environment. So, I mean, we go back to the days of DOS, I think we were talking about it the other day, a word processor, and then we basically start getting into all the tools they brought to the front in terms of documenting, Excel sheets, etc. And then came in the early days of OCS, and then Link, and then grew on to being Skype, and then of course we're sitting now with Teams over here. So this journey has proven, quite clearly that Microsoft do take communication seriously. What they've done really well in that process is created this ecosystem, and this ecosystem of resellers, its ecosystems of partnerships. And I think the big step that they took in opening themselves up and saying we'll work with others, so you can now put a Microsoft application on an Apple device, for example. Doesn't all have to be Windows. That really, I think, created a massive opportunity. And in many instances, like Pat said, you can use Microsoft as a door opener into opportunities you otherwise would not traditionally consider a communication space that you can sell into or you can grow into. And I think with Dstny, the view we take in these instances is very much solutions led. So instead of thrusting a product down somebody's throat, you try and go and have a conversation in terms of how they're using Microsoft, what sort of challenges are they having. And we've recently had a couple of really productive engagements that have led to recognizing that there's a massive Microsoft base that people serve, touching a very small part of it. And then suddenly that's opened up a door for a communication enablement opportunity, which we can then help them fulfill with the products we have. So I think it's as much as it's considered a threat, the Microsoft ecosystem is very much an opportunity for anybody who's working in the communication space.
And you mentioned there kind of the power of building on something that users are already leveraging, so that you're kind of working with them instead of kind of against them. What are kind of the key areas where value can be added, and kind of what do businesses tend to need kind of putting on top of these products that they've kind of already got on their computers?
So I think, sorry, go on, you go, Akshay. Sorry, I'm jumping in.
Right. So I think Pat said earlier on, the users have a lot of choice now. And that makes it really interesting, because you could have users having Microsoft as part of their working solution suite. They could have a separate product for their communications piece, which could be Mitel, it could be something else. They could have another platform that is doing their whole integration around the CRM side of things. Then the BSS tools. So they can have a mix of various things. And in many instances, they have a large overlay of maintaining these different, call them micro clouds within their environment, as well as growing them. And it comes to the point sometimes where there's budgetary constraints, and it's like, what do we have to cut to spend on? And it doesn't actually always have to be like that. So I think when you have an opportunity like that, then I think if you can play a key role in being a good integrator with the solution you bring to the table, or with the skill set you bring to the table, and many companies have made a business out of this actually. Working well with this gives an opportunity to have the best of breed of everything. So how easy is it to integrate into, and how easy it is for others to integrate into you, I think creates a big opportunity in terms of having the best of breed in terms of solutions, and also gives the end user at the end of the day, an opportunity, like Pat says, you've got a different set of systems for them to choose and say, okay, you know what, this piece of communications technology that I've got in my stack, I favor, and this is what I want to stick with. So let me remove something else, and that doesn't mean overhauling the entire network and having to do everything from scratch.
No, and whilst there's raising costs in things from an on-site or dedicated instance or a PBX world, naturally they normally come with fairly hefty software assurance charges now. So you need to be able to keep. Why am I paying this, Mr. End Customer? If you're able to go back in with something that is of value in terms of an integration into Microsoft Teams, and it's brandable under your own brand, it's really quite compelling on that side. And because, as you said, not everyone's going to want to move at the same time. You want to be able to go in and say, look, at what pace do you want to move forward and get off what you're on now? And then that way, then you're not forcing the end customer to you're not putting them under pressure. Essentially, what you're actually saying is, look, you tell us your timeframes. Let's then look at a plan that says, look, we can enable this for you over 3, 6, 9 months. And then guess what? In 2 years' time, your foot's already in the door because you're already providing a service that's integrating into Teams, whether that's a native experience, which is something that we offer, or whether it's a DR strategy. Again, it's just giving multiple options, that consultative sell, so that it's not, what I have, you need, Mr. End Customer. It's giving them ability to give them choice. And then ultimately, then that becomes a lot more trusted advisor in that relationship with the end customer.
Definitely. And then also, if we're looking ahead, what do you expect to see kind of coming up on the horizon for the cloud communications market? How is this going to continue to evolve?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think firstly, from a voice standpoint, a UCaaS standpoint, AI is very, very important at the moment, and I think there's lots of discussion around what that actually means, whether that's someone entering a chat bot, whether it's actually something that you gain intelligence through. So I think that's going to be huge for us on that side. But it's also, again, back into that Teams conversation. It's leveraging what Teams gives natively. Okay, so it's not actually you or your PBX or your UCaaS provider enabling this. It's you're leveraging the Teams skill set at a certain cost, which is admirable to end customers. And I think ultimately the customer experience point as well. Okay, so or CX or contact center, whatever people want to call it these days, on that side. Ultimately, how do we make somebody productive and deliver a good service? And I think there's a number of things we're looking to do there, more in around that informal contact center arrangement. Okay, so not every customer that says they need a contact center or customer experience center, it's not always 500 people in banks of desks. It could be, I've got 5 agents, but actually, do you know what? There's a couple of people I might need to loop into that experience if we're short-staffed or they're off or they're remote working, whatever. So I think for us, AI is very important, but it's a complete minefield. I think we really, again, back to that trusted advisor piece, how are you looking to leverage AI? And secondly, that customer experience point from our point of view is, and really in that kind of SME informal contact center of how can I get some of those really cool tools that I think as an end customer, only, the banks and the large hotel chains that get access to in terms of web chat, social media interaction and all that type of stuff.
And I'm going to throw in a bit of a cautious outlook over there as well. So in the cloud communications industry, I think something that we potentially could be heading towards is commoditization, just like I think we hit in the other parts of the communications industry. And it's very important for providers to realize what is their USP and how exactly they can remain relevant, so that it's not something that becomes table stakes that you just got to offer it and you've got to offer it for the lowest possible price and it becomes a race to the bottom. We have to try and make sure that as enablers, as providers, that we avoid that situation, because what makes it quite important, and just picking up the points that Pat made, is what value are you bringing to the end user? If you're just giving them the ability to communicate, I mean, that's something that's been going on for ages, but when you layer that on with functionality that makes working for them easier, buying for them quicker, and of course there's a price point that you have to be mindful of, they'll be willing to pay that if you make it easy for them, and if you give them that value that unlocks capabilities that they otherwise wouldn't have from anywhere else. So stickiness is going to be quite important. That trust factor is going to be quite important, and evolving continuously, because things will change in different little ways, and making sure that you invest in technology that allows you to make that change, those little changes, and that's something I think that's going to be key, and that's what I think people will start picking up on. You'll have legacy technology that will be slowly getting changed. People will try and bolt it on, or it will get absorbed into something, or it will basically die on one of the others. But I think in the next gen of comms that are coming out, the value addition is going to be quite key.
You said that was going to be cautious, but I think that's more kind of on the cautiously optimistic side. There's lots of ways people can succeed with that great advice you had there.
So I think it's the glass always has to be half full, because I think if it isn't, then I think us driving all this stack of communications enablement tools that we are providing will be irrelevant, because we always see an opportunity, and change is what brings opportunity. Otherwise things get static and boring, and nobody grows. And we like growing.
Absolutely. So that does bring us to the end of this episode of Comms Business Live. Akshay and Pat, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Charlotte.
And if anyone watching wants to follow up with the Dstny team and find out more about how to make the most of the team's opportunity, there are some links in the video description to connect you with the right people. But otherwise, thanks everyone for watching, and goodbye.